Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Here's our first West Ham news and views video of the season. In this video, we'll reflect on the Bournemouth result, talk about the numerous transfer rumours, Lukasz Fabianski's outspoken comments, and a preview of the Chelsea game this coming Sunday. Today, me and Dennis are joined by Tony from Earlydoors Football TV, a brand new channel. Subscribe to his channel in the comments below if you haven't already, and subscribe to Garage Football for more vlogs, watch-alongs, and other content like this. So, lads, thanks for joining. Particularly you, Tony. It's your first time on the channel, so thanks for taking time to join us. So we'll touch all of us quickly on the Bournemouth result. Obviously finished 1-1 at the Vitality Stadium. So we'll start you, Tony. I mean, none of us were there. I think we all just saw the highlights on that 10 yards match of the day. Watched a bit of YouTube, West Ham Fan TV, etc. What are your thoughts on the result? Are you happy? You disappointed? You okay with just getting a point out of the first game?
I think I'm more disappointed more than anything else. I thought 3 points was more achievable than getting the draw. I suppose the goal itself, a little bit fluky, wasn't it? Coming off the back of Souček's heel, straight into the path of Solanke, and it was just a no-brainer. But what I was more disappointed at was no one following up with the player afterwards. We just allowed him to carry on going and put that goal away.
Yeah.
So I thought we could have definitely got more, but yeah, I'm not happy with Moyes. He was very happy to walk away with a point. I was more happy to walk away with 3 points. I don't know what you guys thought.
Yeah, I mean, from what I know a few fans that went, and it's just sort of typical sort of performance under Moyes the sort of last year or so, where like we'll get the lead and then just sit back straight away, so they go for the second goal. That's what it seemed like anyway. And even just the updates on Soccer Saturday, Sue Smith was covering it every time. Just like Bournemouth were wave after wave after we got our goal from Jared Bowen. Great finish by Bowen, of course. Dennis, your thoughts?
Pretty much the same as what you two have said. It sounded like it was the quintessential away performance. Bournemouth have got a new attacking manager. However, I felt, on the balance of how we played, from what I did see and what I've heard, we had a lot better quality in the middle of the park and really should have got a second. I mean, we can hide behind the fact that Paqueta hit the post and Souček hit the post as well. So you could make that argument that another day those go in. But I guarantee you, if that early Souček chart goes in, we probably don't score the Bowen goal because, like you said, we sit back. We've seen it time and time again when it's on live TV away from home. Do worry a little bit if that's going to be our tactics every away game, because it's going to be much tougher teams, especially on the counter, than Bournemouth. But end of the day, I'd have taken a point considering the negative feeling coming into the game. And with the caveat that with signings coming in, we are only going to get better in theory.
Yeah, no, totally. I think from what I've read and watched on YouTube, etc., I think you mentioned Souček earlier, Dennis hitting the post. I think by the sound of it, he sounded, what we say, quite back to his best, but I mean, a lot more encouraging than the past year, 18 months or so.
He was a lot more natural by the sounds of it, like playing his normal natural game, mainly because Rice insisted on bombing forward. But yeah, and I forgot to mention about Solanke's goal. If there's an element of he made his own luck there, because by all accounts he ran our defense ragged and didn't stop. And yeah, he doesn't get that many goals, but in a team with a bit more service, potentially. I mean, there's some talk about us signing him. I'm sure we'll come on to it later. But I wouldn't be against it for sensible money. Wouldn't be against it.
Yeah, totally. And Tony, obviously, it'd be nice. It's nice to see Pablo Fornals in the more central area from what I saw.
Yeah, he seemed to come into his own at that point. I think I agree with what Dennis did there. I've said it on the channel a couple of days ago. Since Rice has gone, those players that are kind of virtually under his shadow, they're now allowed to come out and actually perform for a change. If we keep hold of Paqueta, I mean, that's going to be another story in itself. He can hopefully shine this season. But for Fornals and Souček, yeah, they can definitely kind of come out of that shadow that was kind of cast by Rice. And hopefully we'll see a bit more of that.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Right, you mentioned, Dennis, about new signings for this season. Obviously, we had no new signings, obviously, in the squad on Saturday against Bournemouth. We've got 2 through the door. One last week, Edson Alvarez from Ajax, and on Monday, just gone, James Ward-Prowse eventually got over the line, linked with Ward-Prowse for quite some time now. But we'll start on Alvarez. Tony, your thoughts on Alvarez? Obviously, former Ajax midfielder, looks a quite a tough, tenacious tackler by the sound of things. So that he will replace that section of Declan Rice's attributes.
Yeah, definitely. We know he's a baller. He can definitely do his part. And as you said, it fills in that defensive role. Now we just need the attacking option. But yeah, I like Alvarez. I think he's a class player. So it'd be good to actually see him make his debut. Hopefully, it'll be this Saturday, and what he can actually offer there. Because as much as we want Paqueta moving forward, we do need that defensive cover because we can't always rely on our back four.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think it's quite interesting that obviously a lot of clubs, particularly at the higher end of the Premier League, Chelsea have signed one in Caicedo for 115 million. I think they're going to probably get Lavia as well. And you look at Liverpool, who are badly in need of a holding midfielder, and yet West Ham have signed Alvarez. I think it was linked with Chelsea previously. I think Dortmund, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So and for the fee, I don't think there's a huge amount between him and Caicedo personally. So I think we've got some good business for once. Dennis, do you concur with Alvarez? Seems the type of player, obviously tenacious and would seem as the kind of person from what my friend James Rowe, based in the Netherlands, journalist based out there, obviously follows Ajax. He said he'd fit in brilliantly with West Ham and the Premier League itself. So that's a pretty glowing endorsement.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he's got that similar to like how we looked at when Maguire signed for us. We're saying he's quick on the recovery tackle. Alvarez is also that from what I've seen of him. I'm not going to sit here and say as someone that I've watched week in, week out, and I don't actually think I've seen him play live ever. So I'm taking this off of YouTube and, oral or verbal reports from other people. But yeah, he looks like a sensible signing. Glad we signed him personally over the preferred choices of McTominay and Gallagher, in that sense of if we had signed them, they also are not exactly strictly defensively minded, and we could have a similar scenario to Rice where Gallagher / McTominay want to bomb forward every once in a while, and then Soucek's back, and then you hit the panic stations. Whereas with this one, he's just going to sit back in the hole, be the anchor between defence and midfield, and you stay back, and also be a bit of an aerial presence for our other signings crosses, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, speaking of that player, James Ward-Prowse, obviously been linked with West Ham for certainly this summer. I think probably even go back to last summer. I would argue as well. Obviously really pleased that he's got over the line. I think far too much gets talked about his set pieces. Obviously they're fantastic, but it's a bit of a lazy assumption that's all he does. He's far from that. So glad he signed on Monday again for a decent enough fee. So Dennis, you excited about Ward-Prowse?
Yeah, as I said, for a long time I thought he's money. He's a lot more than just a set piece taker. He's pretty good at tracking back. That's why in some fantasy formations, people have him playing right wing back, which I think he'd be wasted at. But he does track back a lot and cover. For Southampton, he's always had a pretty decent performance whenever in some very poor Southampton sides that we've played recently. Probably since Moyes took over, Southampton consistently have been a side that have underperformed compared to the players they've got. Like, they've always been a team that I've gone with the right tactics. They're a top 10 side easy. And they've always flirted with relegation pretty much, and finally have gone down. I think it's great. I mean, we mentioned set pieces, but now we've got someone when they stand over a free kick, you're confident you got a chance. I think the only time we've ever really had that was pre-knee injury Lanzini and Payet. Other than that, our free kick takers, our corners have not been. We've scored a fair few from corners for a bit from Cresswell to an extent, but I remember the years of Mark Noble taking them where they don't clear the first man. So actually investing in someone that is in a dynamo that can do all of that. I mean, Cresswell took some free kicks. He scored 2 in his career. This guy's, I think he's he scored more than Beckham, I think, in the Premier League free kicks, which is pretty crazy considering that was
level. I think it's level. One more and he'll over.
Yeah. Sunday he'll break that record against Chelsea. So,
nice.
But yeah, like he don't score every single free kick. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but I think his record's something like 1 in 3, which is crazy for direct free kicks. And yeah, I think overall it's a no-brainer. And people saying, oh, he's 28, resale value. Sometimes you just got to buy the player. You just got to buy the player, not sit there and look for an alternative that's half the price in Europe that will take 6 months to adapt. So yeah, very happy with James Ward-Prowse.
Yeah, and I think it's about time we actually start buying players in their prime as well, rather than obviously over the hill. Obviously, it's nice to buy youngsters who could reach their potential with us, but there's nothing wrong with the here and now, and we need midfielders for the here and now, don't we? So, do you concur, Tony? I mean, obviously he's a top quality player. Obviously, stood out. Him and Lavia probably head and shoulders in Southampton's terrible season last year, but he obviously brings some leadership qualities as well. Obviously, he's former England international, will be looking to play his way into the what would it be, the Euro squad for next year, I think it is. So that's the type of player we want. Someone who's got plenty to play for, not only for his career but also his international prospects.
Well, definitely. It's another one where we can, reignite someone's career again, like we did with Lingard. I mean, obviously he's with us at the moment, but I know, Dennis. But when you look at it, as you said, that balance of having young players coming in and the experience, because that's what you need, and that's something we're pretty good at overall as a squad. We tend to offer that kind of balance. So Hugh coming in with that, free kicks. And when you think about it, we're not exactly small players now, are we? We've got a couple of people, I think there's over 6.5 foot. I think the smallest one is actually Alvarez. He's 6'3". Whereas the others, I think it's Souček 6'5". I think Zuma is as well. So when you look at that height capability for corners, hopefully we're going to see bags of goals coming in that respect. And as you said, with the free kicks, it's trademark Ward-Prowse, isn't it, at the end of the day? So that is another option we're going to have for... If we can't score it on the field, hopefully we do it from free kicks, instead of open play. So I'll take that over not scoring goals.
No, totally. Yeah. Okay. Well, move on to the many transfer rumours now. So one player who might be joining West Ham. Well, it doesn't look like. We never know. Might go back in for him. Is Harry Maguire. The fee was agreed with Man United, but it looks like that. Well, it's that deal's off now. We're looking at different alternatives. So, I mean, you disappointed in that, Tony, or are you just like, okay, well, let's move on? We've got a list of targets for each position. Just move on to the next player. Yeah,
I mean, Dennis hit the nail on the head. Why do we, want to long out 6 months trying to get someone over the line by kind of want to deal with the player? Does he want to come to us? Then there's the wages involved. And if Maguire was looking for big money to leave, then what's the point? Because is he going to expect that same thing with us? We don't want that. We want someone's going to come in ready to go and fit in with the squad. I think, don't get me wrong, if he did come, I think it'd be a good fit for him and it'd be a good fit for the club because he's, we know he's a leadership, even though he's donkey at sometimes, but it could be a good fit for West Ham. We tend to do that with certain players, don't we? We bring in, they seem to find their form. And I think with Maguire, that could have been the case. But in certain respects, a lot of people will say we've dodged the bullet by not signing him. But, in us, we're probably going at the last minute again. He may reconsider. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, wait and see. Yeah, no, I agree. I think, I was excited when the fee was agreed last week. I think it would have reignited his career, as you say, Tony, and would have suited West Ham's style of play in terms of not exactly high line like Man United do, and he can just focus on defending rather than have to run back towards his own goal all the time. So obviously you don't get in the. I think he's got in the Euros and World Cup Team of the Years or something like that anyway for England. So you're a pretty good defender if you can do that, to be honest. So it's quite interesting what's been revealed about Maguire. So Dharma Chef of Sky Sports, he tweeted recently about that Harry Maguire respects West Ham, David Moyes, but to be clear, there's never an agreement in place between Harry and West Ham. the process was less advanced than portrayed in the media. For example, at no point has Harry spoken to David Moyes. So at least Dennis, by that account, at least West Ham done the right thing by walking away and looking at different alternatives.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like I said, I think it's very silly of Harry Maguire to not really engage in this, because he's unless there's a massive injury crisis, he's not going to get a string of games. He might come in for a game here and there, but unless there's long-term injuries to Varane or Martinez at United, he's not getting ahead of those two, in my honest opinion.
And sorry to interrupt, mate, but it's quite telling that obviously he didn't come on against Wolves, even though Lindelof come on instead of Martinez. I think it was on the booking, Martinez. But, it's like, well, I think it runs on the wall for Maguire if Lindelof's coming on ahead of you.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just silly. I mean, I wouldn't be against signing Maguire, but it would need to be the right deal, similar to what I said about Solanke, and that, I think 30 million was the top end, and on top of the wages we're going to have to be paying him, and considering, there is always going to be doubt over David Moyes' future if we do go on a run of poor games, or if come the end of the season we've had another drab season and finished 14th, is he getting another contract? If so, the new manager is going to inherit a defender. He might find himself in the exact same situation he has with Ten Hag, or which lumbers us with another significant wage to shift, which then no one will probably move on to unless he's had a stormer of a season. I think he'd do well under the way we play with Moyes, and I think he'd do really well with James Ward-Prowse's corners. However, there are other alternatives, which I'm sure we'll come on to a little bit. One that really does excite me a little bit. But, I just think it's really foolish, and I think Man United have been a little bit arrogant in this transfer from what I read on okay, West Ham have agreed a fee. Okay, now let's work on a replacement and keep us at arm's length, and then sell him to us sort of once they got a replacement. And it's like, well, hang on a minute, we're not hanging about. And I'm glad for once that we have pulled out, because historically, like what happened with Lingard last summer, we would have hung out and hung out and hung out and hung out and hung out, and then signed him on the 28th of August and been like, right. Whereas instead we're saying, now see you later. Here's some other options. Thank you very much.
Well, I think finally, I think you're bang on, Dennis. I think obviously it took a while with getting the transfers in, which obviously wasn't great. But I think recently, the fact that we've moved on from Maguire and we've got a load of alternatives, like you should do for each position on the pitch. I think that's the result of obviously Rob Newman probably, and more pertinently Tim Steiden, I would say as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So speaking of those options, Dennis, someone that you would having watched Bundesliga quite a fair bit, one of the centre backs been linked with us instead of Harry Maguire is former Arsenal Greek defender Konstantinos Mavropanos. So your thoughts on that, Dennis? Obviously, he struggled for game time at Arsenal, but he had like Socrates and Mustafi and Koscielny, I'm going to say, at that period. But by the sound of it, he's had a real renaissance at Stuttgart.
Yep, he was very green when he signed for Arsenal, but I remember watching his debut. I can't remember who it was against, but it was a Super Sunday game. He had an absolute stormer when he was a young lad. But no, we were linked with him last summer, but I think Stuttgart had first refusal on him. But we were linked with him around the time we picked up Kera, I think, or just before the start of the season. Yeah, brilliant. I mean, he'd be on name. I'll get him on the back of my shirt purely just for a laugh. And hopefully
it's a good Scrabble name as well, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to X trying to say it. Stadium announcer. I'm looking forward to some baklava being sold at the concourse as well in his honour. Yeah. But no, I think the guy, again, the term I like using it. I think the guy's money. He's apparently it could be as low as 15 million. He's
as much as that's a snip.
As much as in all other walks of life, I try and insist that height doesn't matter. He's 6'4.5". He's rapid. Yeah. He does like a little injury. He does like picking up a little knock here.
So they're all our defenders, mate. Aguero, Zuma, do you know what I mean?
But he'll be a rotation option. I don't think, because with Maguire, I saw us going to a back three. I don't think we're going to go with back three unless we sign Maguire. So I see him basically as a backup centre back alongside Kera, whereas Agbonnick is sort of is on his last legs. But he's not a bad option to have, especially in Europe. He's been a real standout player for Stuttgart, like, even when he was on loan. One of my mates supports them, and he absolutely raves about them. Literally texts me to saying, even if you pay 40 million, you reckon you're getting a bargain. He's not biased in the slightest, but apparently it could be as low as 15, 20 million, which I think we bite their arms off on that one.
Yeah, and I think if you look at compared to what would we got Maguire for, 30? Was it the fee?
Yeah,
30 and probably another 50 grand a week wages on top.
Yeah, exactly. So you're looking at that value for money. It's like, well, I mean, Maguire's probably the slightly better player, but for the fee and the lesser wages, you're like, well, I think that's the better deal personally. And I think with and obviously he's played in this league before, obviously not a huge amount of times, but he knows what he's getting into. I mean, your thoughts on that potential deal for Mavropanos, Tony?
No, I think it'd be a good deal. Like, as Dennis said, for the qualities he's got, if he is going to be a bit part player, the main thing when you look at it for the Europa League and that, ideal. Bring him in, still got that strength. He knows Europa League. And obviously, he said he knows the Prem, so that'd be an ideal opportunity for him to be in there. And if Dennis is saying that fee of 15 to 20 million, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? Really, you just you just sign it up. There's no questions asked.
I mean, we say Prem experience. He's played 7 games, and most of them were sub appearances.
No, but in terms of living in this country, he's not coming into a league that he doesn't know. Per se, obviously, he's not got stacked of experience, but he's obviously got that at Stuttgart, hasn't he? So, one other player who seems to be really catching the eye of many West Ham fans is another Ajax player. Really good update from, again, Darmashef today on Mohammed Kudus. As I say, Ajax midfielder, tweeted about a few West Ham players. One being or linked with West Ham. So one being Kudus. He said West Ham remaining talks with Ajax over the sign of midfielder Mohammed Kudus. One source told us West Ham getting encouragement. He's open on the move. That's pretty good to hear. Your thoughts, Tony? Seems to be from what I've read of him, from what social media talk about, he'd be an amazing replacement for Paqueta, or even if Paqueta stays. I mean, that's pretty high praise.
It is. I mean, apparently, even if Paqueta stays, that we're still looking to get the player, which I think if we can do that, that'd be amazing business, because he is an exceptional player. When you think, you got the likes of Arsenal, I think it was even Chelsea and whatever looking at him. I think was it Brighton. If we could snap that player up as well, then considering how slow we've been in the transfer business, this the market. If we can suddenly get that over the line, then wow.
Yeah, and again, it's another decent fee by the look of it, 35 million. Yeah,
so, it's silly money, isn't it? Really, for a player that's kind of got that kind of what's the word? Jesus Christ, it's gone out of my head.
Ability,
a persona about himself. That as well. The persona, what he kind of brings.
Yeah,
for 35 million, like I said, 15 million for that defender, him as well.
Yeah,
good business. Good business.
Yeah, well, as a lot of people like to say, stardum's cooking. And he's 23 years old as well, Kudus. So again, a brilliant age.
Long term for the future.
Yeah, no, totally. And another attacker we've been linked with, a player I really rate, who was key to Nottingham Forest's survival last season in the Premier League, was Brennan Johnson. So again, with the Premier League tax on players, and the fact he's a British player, obviously a Welsh international. I think we're looking at, if it's Mike McGrath in the Telegraphs, obviously very in the know Mike McGrath, 45 million apparently we're looking at for Brennan Johnson. But I mean, Dennis, him and Morgan Gibbs-White and Awoniyi were key to, as I say, Forest survival. And again, someone who's very raw, but he seems a really impressive player, even though he's obviously still pretty inexperienced.
The reason why I'm glad to see we're showing interest in Brennan Johnson as well as Kudus is they both have something we really lack: pace. We are one of the slowest sides. We're getting to Harry Redknapp Portsmouth levels of slow.
That's saying sorry.
Antonio is our quickest player. Yeah,
Yeah,
Antonio
yeah.
and Emerson are our only two quick players, really. Like Bowen, like kind of in our interest that Bowen's not that fast. Because if Bowen had a bit more pace, he'd be off to Liverpool or United a couple of years ago, I reckon. But that's all he's really lacking for being the perfect winger. But yeah, and I'm glad to see we're kind of addressing it. Getting both those players would be crazy. I know Johnson, okay, look, 45 million may seem over the odds, but he's young and it's going to be a step up from Forest, no disrespect. I know Lee position wasn't too far last season, but we're hoping last season for us was a bit of a blip. I reckon those two added in, if the plan to have Bowen going up top is great and getting that City winger on loan, which apparently Kudus and him could be signed irrelevant of selling Paqueta, because that could be a pretty crazy attacking transformation considering what we had last year. Obviously, I'm sad to see the back of Scamacca, but it looks like we're identifying players that fit into this counter-attacking Moyes ball system. And they're going, well, you can't really play it without pace. I mean, Benny's got the tricks and flicks, but he's not quick. Whereas, yeah, Johnson is quite happy with it. He missed the sitter against Arsenal. I'd like to think that's because he's thinking, well, I'm going to West Ham. I don't really want to help Forest nick the point here. You know, I think that's
exactly what he's thinking.
That's what he was thinking when he was through.
But, exactly.
Be very happy with both of those. Obviously, don't want to play over the odds, but you're going to have to pay a little bit extra for that Prem tax, you know. And people know we've got money.
Yeah, but even with 45 million, again, it is a little bit steep. But you know, some of the fees nowadays, like that, you know, do you know what I mean? Like, that's still, I think, a decent fee for Brennan Johnson, because he's got that pace. He's, aside from that game against Arsenal, that was a terrible finish, but generally he's pretty composed in front of the goal. Skillful, always on the movement as well. Him and Gibbs White, you don't know where they're going most of the time because they're always occupying defenders, which is what we want.
And the one thing on Johnson, which is good, if it's Steinberg, it's not Steinberg, sorry, Steinen that's identified him.
Well, Jacob Steinberg's involved as well, is he?
Yeah, I've been reading too much. But Moyes. He was on the radar of Moyes and Newman if Forest didn't go up. So if Steinen's identified him as well as Moyes, it's more likely to happen because if they both want him.
Of course, yeah, totally. Your thoughts, Tony, on Johnson? He seems we're really exciting, a potential exciting addition if we do that.
He's a young, exciting talent, isn't he? In the day and that, and like you said, for 45 million, you've got to speculate to accumulate, and that's one person, the youngster, pay the money. There's no ifs or buts. He'll be a great addition for us, and you know, after seeing that miss on Saturday, it's a case of maybe we would consider. But when you look at it, no, I think he'll be ideal and bags of energy, bags of pace, which, as Dennis just quite rightly said, we are like the snail compared to other teams in the Prem at the moment. So we do need that pace.
Yeah, totally. And I think obviously it's good trying to get players like Alvarez, like maybe in the Eredivisie, the Dutch league, or other different foreign leagues. But like with Ward-Prowse, sometimes it's just you need. I think which is what Moyes has sort of identified as well, where you just need to buy what's in front of you. Who's a good player in one of the other Prem teams? Let's get, if they fit our system at a reasonable fee, let's go and get them. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that, as well as obviously scouting further afield like Brighton do, obviously brilliantly. So let's go to the ever-going list that I've got. You touched on mine earlier, Dennis, Solanke. We'll come to you, Tony, on Solanke. I mean, obviously took his goal well against us on Saturday. Weird with Solanke that when he first joined Bournemouth, he had an awful record goal scoring wise. But when they got relegated and in the championship, scored goals and obviously scored a few last season and scored Saturday. So again, he's a player we've been linked with. For me, seems to be the type of player that would suit us. Actually, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's got the pay. You know, he's a fast player as well. And for his height, as Dennis alluded, he don't exactly kind of bang in goals. No. But then, what players do we have over the years that have really been doing that? But I think he'd be a good fit. Just for his aerial presence. We're good at doing free kicks. That will be an advantage for us. The only problem you've got to think of where we've lost the likes of Scamacca and Haller and that is more his style of play. Can we rely on the one man doing all the work?
Yeah. So, what do you think, Dennis? Obviously, he seems comes with he came with a really good reputation for the England youth, and then obviously he was at Chelsea and I think Liverpool as well. But when I think it was him and Jordan Ibe went to Bournemouth at the same time, and they both absolutely flopped when Bournemouth got relegated. But whereas Solanke's actually rebuilt his career, obviously sadly Jordan Ibe hasn't. But Solanke started to get better and better really. So, but I mean, do you rate him as a player?
I rate him definitely now. If you had linked us with Solanke at the beginning of last season, I'd have been like, look, he scored some goals in the Championship, but I think that's his level.
Yeah,
I'm happy with it. Totally proved me wrong. I remember when he went from Chelsea to Liverpool, didn't help that I sat opposite a Liverpool fan. That anyone that signed for Liverpool then became amazing. How it works, you know. But he was properly going on about his under-20 scoring record that starred alongside Rhian Brewster in I think the under-20 World Cup. I think it was that they won.
That's right.
I can't quite remember the level, but they won something. And he never really got a chance at Liverpool. And I think Bournemouth getting relegated was the best thing to happen in his career, because then they sold everyone that weren't nailed to the floor pretty much, other than him and I think Josh King, and kept hold of him. And he, banged in some goals, cemented himself. He's never been a double figure in the Premier League striker so far. But I think, this season he could be a bit different. This could be his breakout season.
Well, do you know what, Dennis? Sorry, mate, but nor was Mitrovic until last season.
Yeah, Mitrovic was always seen as why the hell are you spending that much? But then when you watch him play, you realise everything else that he does. And a couple of times I watched Bournemouth last year, I was like, nah, Solanke might be the real deal. Not real deal as in like the next big thing, but like he's a real player now.
A friend player.
Yeah, and Moyes ball relies on one striker up top, someone that's athletic and all limbs. So Iwani at Forest, I said last season, would have been absolutely perfect for a long-term Antonio replacement. Yeah. He's going to Forest ain't going to let him go cheaply, and whether he's even interested in leaving is another thing. But if Solanke's interested and we can get a fee agreed sub £40 million, I think it's a no-brainer. Anything more than that, I think we're better off getting one of these European lads that for about 10-15 million less and taking a bit of a chance on them. But the sheer athleticism he's got, and the fact he can run the channels, that's something that Skamaka couldn't do. I think he's all right, and he'll scrap and get you those little toe poke goals he likes to get, like he scored against us. He'll get you those chances. He made his own luck on Saturday. He made that goal by just being
good composure as well. So
happy to admit I'm wrong. I was wrong on Solanke. I disregarded him as a total flop and a Championship player by this time last season, and happy to admit I was wrong. He's proved me wrong this year. Well done, Dom.
Yeah, well, to be honest, Dennis, you weren't the only one. I think there was plenty that would concur with that.
It's funny. Sorry to interrupt you, Bill, because when you think about it, as you said with Solanke, his style, the other person, he gets the odd goal here and there, and you're saying about someone similar to that who is also apparently linked with Divock Origi. So it must be a Liverpool thing because they do exactly the same thing. So we had him; you'd have exactly the same. With it's like a doppelganger really, Solanke and Origi, and exactly the same thing. So I don't know. Yeah, I do like Solanke. He's got that little bit about him, but just not enough. But it could be the right player for us. You never know.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Any other before we go to outgoings like Paqueta, etc., or potential outgoings? Any other, Dennis? Any other incomings you want to, or Tony? Any other potential incomings you want to talk about? There's so many names. I can't keep up. Keep up, lads.
I'm just going to go get the deep sea scrolls with all our transfer targets. It's one of those.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the one possible area we've got to look at to kind of have a kind of competition area kind of thing, and it could be something that may happen, is Kieran Tierney from Arsenal, left back.
Yeah, I think that would have been more likely if Timber wasn't ruled out for a good.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's kind of.
I think that's thrown out. I think that's thrown out. When I saw those links, Tony, I was like, I'd be. I know he's got his injury problems, Tierney, but get him fit, and he's a proper good player. As we've seen for Arsenal, when I think Celtic was it before he joined.
Yeah.
And obviously the Scottish national team, but now with Timber being injured in the first game, and I think by the sound of it for quite a stretch of time, then I know they've got Zinchenko, but obviously they'll need backup for him as well. So I think maybe Tierney will probably have to stay. But I think someone I would certainly would have gone for, even if just a loan for a season. I would have really considered
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah,
because when you think about it, I mean, I don't know if it's an Arsenal thing. I mean, when you think Rice went there, never really was injured for us, goes there. I think it's for 2 games in, he got himself injured. Obviously, you say Timber, possibly, well, by the sounds of it, it's more likely going to be the whole season he'll be out for.
yeah.
You got to think he's going to have knee surgery, then you got to come back for recovery, then you've got your light training, then you're going to be introduced into maybe the reserve team, under 18s, whatever. Yeah, so it's going to be a long-term thing. So it's a bit unfortunate in the timing, because it seems I think Newcastle are going for another player now, because I think they realise that Tierney's going to probably be ruled out because of that injury. But ideally, because not being funny, Tierney could come to us. I know he's got his injury problems with Arsenal. Doesn't mean he would have that if he came to us. That's something you've got to consider as well.
No, totally. Dennis, any other names that sort of stood out to you that we've been?
We're being linked quite heavily with Ian Matson, who was on loan at Burnley last year, left back. He's rejected a contract today, but apparently Pops
he's a Chelsea,
keep him.
The Chelsea left back, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a Chelsea third choice left back, but apparently Pochettino really rates him and wants to keep him, so it's looking likely to be a loan, if anything.
Yeah.
And with that loan, he'd probably be expected to play games, and I think Emerson's our starting left back personally. Yeah. But I do think, unless you have Ben Johnson as your covering left back, and then have Kerrer and Kufal as right backs, with the addition of the centre back, that could make sense, because you've got 2 backup centre backs. I think a backup left back is needed. But yeah, I mean, there'll no doubt be about 10 different names linked with us by the time this video goes out, or if not, if it is out, then the next day another 15 names. But I think we've pretty much exhausted the list there, other than the inevitable giving Lingard a contract on the last day of the window, and then declare him.
Touch on Lingard quickly, yeah. So obviously he's just training with West Ham at the moment, but I mean, say if he built some good fitness and actually looked like he's going to play with some level of ability, because not the Forest, he stunk the place out, I think, from what I watched of him, and then towards the end he was barely in the squad, I think. So, but and the fact that he didn't join us last summer, obviously went for the money at Forest, but despite all that, I mean, come to you, Dennis. I mean, would you be against signing Lingard, or is it look, just let him train, but then that's it?
Yeah, kind of I think that's it. I mean, what I reckon is going to happen, that 99 times bitten, 100 times shy, is we'll sell Paqueta. Then, no, it's too late to get a deal with Ajax. It's tough negotiators, despite signing a player off them. And then, here's Lingard on a free for the year. J-Lings, and don't get me wrong, I'm the guy that was saying Jesse Lingard will be good for us when everyone else on the channel was saying no, he's terrible, and I was like, no, on loan, I reckon he'll be all right for 6 months. I didn't expect it to be as good as he was.
No, of course.
Don't think anyone did, but I reckon the time's gone. I mean, he's barely trained towards the end at Forest by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
He barely played. I think he got 1 goal in the cup and an assist, and typically the assist was against us in their first game. But he got, with Newcastle, lack of creativity, he weren't there. And I think it's a terrible idea, personally. There was apparently some bad blood about a watch or something when he left. I don't really understand.
Right.
There's seen references to that on Twitter a lot. I just think it's a bad idea. We should be signing the players we spoke about earlier. Yeah, let him train with us.
Yeah.
But once the window closes, thank you very much, Mr. Lingard. Goodbye. You've had your chance. We tried to sign you twice, and the second time you really tried to fleece us for money and then just went to Forest at the end, from what I've read. No, thank you.
Yeah, no, fair enough on that basis. Is it a no from you, Tony, as well?
Yeah, I agree with Dennis, mate. It's, when you look at it, yes, he could possibly do something, but the way he literally blew us off in certain respects is unforgivable. And that's going to be the problem. He could fit in with the team or, certain games, etc. But for the West Ham fans, what we're like. Once you do something like that to us, and that it's a case of No, mate, sorry. You had your chance. Not only once, you did it twice to us.
Yeah.
And you expect to come back and say, all's forgiven. Thank you very much. Can I come back in and... Nah.
Yeah, exactly. No, fair enough. Yeah, no,
And not being funny, Bill, as well, and Dennis as well. When you think about it, we want to be moving forward. We don't want to be. Them days have hopefully gone where we kind of take one step forward and 500 back. We don't want to be in that kind of same frame anymore. We want to look for the future now, build for the future.
Well, you don't have to worry. The Paye rumours can go away because he signed for some Brazilian club today.
You've blown me bubble now, Dennis. Thanks.
Ripped all the notes. Yeah, he had on Paye. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, spoke about the number of potential incomers. Let's talk about the big potential outgoing for West Ham, which is obviously Lucas Paqueta. Obviously, City have put a couple of bids in, and there's is it a release clause next summer that comes into for 85 million for Paqueta, which seems a bit peculiar to have a clause in a couple of seasons in, but so be it. Okay. But yeah, Tony, obviously that'd be a huge blow to lose. Obviously, Declan Rice and Paqueta in the same summer, but obviously he's a top player as he showed towards the end of last season. And obviously we'd have to command, as quite rightly, a huge fee for him.
See, I look at the opposite of that as well. It's also good business from us. 2 players, and we're making nearly 200 million. When was the last time we did that?
Never. Yeah, never. That's quite easy. Yeah.
When was the last team? Many clubs did that. I can't think of a club that sold just 2 players for a grand total of just shy of 200 million of 2 players.
Exactly that, because when you look at it, Chelsea's had to sell, was it 8 or 9 players off to the Saudi League to make that money back, whereas we can do it with just 2 players. So it's exceptional business if he does go. The problem is what we bring in, so hopefully the likes of, as you said, we can get the Kudus deal off the deal. They've still got money in the bank. If they tie up with Palmer as a winger, great business. Even if it's a loan or we buy him outright, that'd be great business because he's an exceptional player for City. The other player that obviously we was linked at one point, which I think they should also throw that into the mix, is Taylor Harwood-Bellis. Bring him into the mix as well. Again, it just shows that we're kind of moving forward as a club. And hopefully, I mean, for that kind of fee, I doubt very much it would be a sell-on clause. But you think over the years, how many players have we actually sold and made nothing from them? We sold them for what their value was. They moved on to another club. We made nothing out of it. So I'm really pleased in certain respects the way Sullivan's done his business with the Rice deal. And I'm glad that this one, I mean, you said about with Paqueta, this 2-year, next season they can trigger this release clause. That probably tells you that they realise that there's a star here waiting to burst out. So we can capitalise onto that. So let's throw it in early, or early doors, if I kind of just put that as a tagline. By doing that, sorry for the pun, but if we can do that, we make some good money. But it's always, like I said, as long as we bring the right players. I mean, Stitton and obviously Moyes, have you noticed the arguments that apparently they're supposed to have, they're disagreeing on that? You're not hearing so much of that now, are you?
Yeah, just a lot smoother, isn't it? Obviously, I think the Maguire thing is, we touched on it earlier. Like, okay, we're not getting Maguire. Who we getting next? Mavropanos, Tar, whoever. Do you know what I mean? We're moving on.
Yeah, that'd be a nice one as well.
It's almost like we're a smooth operator now.
But I mean, Dennis on Paqueta, obviously a fantastic player, but obviously if we could sell him for that amount of money, obviously it's a great fee. But obviously on the pitch, that would make a huge dent. Obviously, if we do get players in, great. But he's already shown what. And even Saturday, by the look of it, he played really well despite all these rumours going around. So that credit to his professionalism.
Yeah, and my view on this, and as much as I don't want to go into a monologue rant, is I think on at least what you see on Twitter, fans need to make their mind up. I mean, I'm seeing people for ages saying they want the Red Bull model, they want the Brighton model. Oh, why can't we be like that? And now they're having a meltdown that we've bought a player and now he's being sold at a £40 million profit.
Yeah, totally.
And it's like, you can't have it both ways, mate.
I think I saw Brownie put something about that.
Yeah. I was gonna give credit to the end of the thing, kind of inspired by a Brownie rant. But like, it's like you can't have it both ways. You can't just have this. Oh yeah, we signed this guy for $5 million and we sell him for 60. Yeah, we like that. When you invest money in that player to make almost double that in a year, I mean, that's why they're going to throw players at it, and also they get a bit of a kickback from the Kudus, sorry, what's his name, Lavia transfer that's going from Southampton to Chelsea. I think they've got something ridiculous, like a 20% sell-on fee, so they get an extra like 12-15 million for that. I read, so that's just going to be slapped onto the Paqueta deal. And if they offer us, I really think that we should be pushing to get Palmer permanently, not on loan, because how much is that really worth then, getting him on loan? Is it really worth shaving 30 million off that transfer fee? Absolutely bleeping not. So if it is a loan, I'll insist on Harwood Bells being thrown in as like a fourth choice centre-back alongside the Greek lad. And then that way, if we lose one of Zuma to a long-term injury, and then you're not then reliant on a 34, 35-year-old Ogbonna who is good, but I'd rather someone a little bit more sprightly waiting in the wings. But yeah, you can't have that model or cry out for that model and then complain when it works in action, because this is how it works. A lot of the people going on about, missing out on players like Alex Scott. I mean, if we had signed Alex Scott and now we're selling Paqueta, it softened the blow a little bit. But the fact that we're planning on signing Kudus, according to X, as irrelevant of the Paqueta deal, even if we keep hold of Paqueta, makes me think that we are going to dig our heels in. And if it's not 85 million plus, which we'll get next summer, he's going to stay. And he's shown, like, maybe he will get annoyed after the fact if he doesn't go. And I can understand that. Like, he's going to have his head turned by the treble winners. It's not unprofessional.
Yeah.
But he's not going to down tools, which is good, and he played really well on Saturday. So I have no problems with me. And if he goes with my blessing. I'm just gutted we've lost out on the 2 Paqueta chance.
As long as the money's sort of reinvested, which obviously with big sum transfers like going now, obviously, none of us were really confident that was going to happen. Whereas now got a bit more belief in that will happen now. So let's move on to comments made by Lukasz Fabianski. Very outspoken comments on a Canal Plus Sport the other day. With obviously Alphonse Areola started the Bournemouth game, so you naturally assume that he's going to be the number one goalkeeper this season. But he's made a few damning comments. Fabianski, I won't read all of it, but basically he said, "I took the news awfully." He said it was a massive shock. The information made me angry. And he meant he wasn't mentally ready for something like this. Apparently, he was told on Thursday that he wasn't going to be starting. So, your thoughts on that, Dennis? Obviously, it's good in a way that he was obviously disappointed not to be playing at his age. It obviously shows he's still got that belief that he should be the number one. But I mean, it's not great timing, is it, to say it after the first game of the season to be so sort of. I know it's been translated. But by the sound of it, it's pretty legit what he said. So I don't know if it's great timing, is it?
No, and it wouldn't be surprised me, and I don't think he's this kind of player, but there's an angle of, well, if I'm not number one, I want to go. Because he's probably only got 1 or so years left at this level. So it wouldn't surprise me if this is then, Fabianski goes on loan or goes for like £1 million somewhere, cut price. Don't think it'll be another Premier League side, because I don't think anyone needs a first choice keeper. So, could go back. I'm pretty certain he started at, no, that's Kuszak, I'm thinking. He didn't start Hertha Berlin, but he could go back to Poland, or he could go to a European side easy. So it could be an angle of that. I don't agree with airing it on a TV show. I'd like to think there was at least some internal discussion before then. But equally, it's just fuel to the fire for the people getting annoyed, saying internally things are not right. We've lost staff members and stuff. And if Fabianski's version of events are correct, because everyone's going to have their own twist on it, to tell a goalkeeper on the Thursday, you're not my number one, that's the kind of conversation you tend to have before pre-season, or you say in pre-season, right, I'm going to judge you on these games, and then we're going to have a sit down. And I refuse to believe that they didn't have a sit down earlier before Thursday on that, because as a goalkeeper, you've got to be confident. You can't have that confidence knocked or be uncertain. So if they're even going into the week before the game, if neither goalkeeper knows who's number one, just look at David James and Robert Green's anecdotes from the 2010 World Cup. Robert Green did not know he was number one until the lineup was announced an hour before the game, and look what happened. You can't have that with goalkeepers. Goalkeepers are a special breed, and they need to be treated a little bit differently than the rest of the squad. So if that is true, that's really crap for Moyes. And he's a manager for so many years, he knows better than that. So that's why I think Fabianski might be being economical with the truth, angling for a move, and he'd go with my blessing because he's been a great servant at the club.
Yeah.
But time moves on, and I think Areola had a bloody good game, personally.
Yeah, he thought Sony, obviously, I think, I thought Fabianski was absolutely okay last, made the odd mistake, but, I think was perfectly okay. I think it's more the players in front of him that performed badly. That's why we finished in the low position in the Premier League anyway. But your thoughts on what he said?
I mean, obviously, as always, is it true or not? It is paper talk. The journalist is trying to get an angle, trying to get the player to say a certain thing. So, of course, it knows what controversy it's going to throw up. And not being funny, you got to think he had it all good over the last couple of... Since we signed Areola on a permanent deal and that, Fabianski's had it cart-free, really. He knew that if Areola's coming in for the European games, he was going to be playing the Prem games. And he's got to also realise we didn't buy him for no other reason. He wasn't just going to be there for being number two. There is going to be a point where Areola will become number one.
Yeah.
Because not being funny, Fabianski, you're not getting any younger.
And Areola is on ridiculously high wages as well.
That's the thing as well, isn't it? So when you look at something like that, something's going to give somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
And in certain respects, this is where players are a little bit kind of narrow-minded, because you've got to look at the bigger picture. The club's bigger than anything else, and they're looking at the long-term project. And I know players obviously want to play and do their part, and that's what it's all about. I understand that sort of things. But if it is true what he said, then, Dennis is kind of certain in his right to a certain extent. You do try and talk to someone earlier, and goalkeepers, yes, they are a different breed because they are more sensitive than the outfield players. Because as far as they're concerned, they do more work than anyone else. In our case, last season, they definitely did. But when you look at the whole thing altogether, it's kind of bad timing, considering, we've only just started the season and we're now got this kind of unrest. Not being funny, we're not the only one that's lost staff. Coaching staff, everyone's kind of going through some real building project. You just got to look at Arsenal. They've lost a lot of coaches as well. So we're not the only club that's done that. But yeah, I'll take it with a pinch of salt until we actually see what's coming out. Or what you will see, I'll get you, maybe a week or so's time, that it was all misconstrued. The comments that I said this, but they've put it out as that. We'll see.
Yeah, no, totally. Right, let's move on to let's finish off with a quick preview of the Chelsea game. We obviously play Chelsea this coming Sunday live on Sky. I mean, from what I saw, they look pretty impressive. Chelsea against Liverpool at Stamford Bridge. Obviously, a load of ingoings and out, more pertinently outgoings at Chelsea this summer. Obviously, Mr. Pochettino's coming in, so obviously a fabulous coach, as he's proven over the years. A big test for West Ham early doors, Chelsea against Chelsea, I would say, Tony.
Very much. I mean, like you said, new manager, a lot of new players in. When they played in that Premier League Cup out in America and that, they did look quite impressive. But we're at home and we have a good record against them. So I think it'll be a good test. Yeah. Considering the very little business we've done compared to what they've done, it'll show you where we stand compared to last season. I think that's going to be, for me, the telling point. What have we learned from last season going into this new season? Are we kind of going to get better? Have we learned from our mistakes? But I do fancy us against Chelsea, I must admit, even though with what they've signed. I don't know if you two agree on that. You might be completely different to what I'm going to say.
Yeah, do you concur, Dennis?
I think we'll make a game of it. I think the difficulty is going to be who starts in midfield for us. I don't think Alvarez is going to be up to speed, considering he had the Gold Cup and a holiday. James Ward-Prowse is going to be match fit, but does Moyes want to throw him in after just a few days training? I see him maybe being used as a sub if we're behind and he wants to bring him on for set pieces and whatnot. But I think I expect us fully to make a game of it. The only thing I'm counting on is Chelsea's lineup is still a bit disjointed considering they're signing 3 players a week. I don't know if Levy is going to be announced or playing in time, but they could potentially have a central midfield worth close to £300 million if they play all 3 of them in a midfield, you know. But I don't know. I mean, like I said, they were played off the park by Liverpool, and I'm not comparing us to Liverpool, but that's the only thing I'm banking on. There could be some not rustings, but disjointedness. I expect it to be a competitive game, but I'm expecting also Chelsea's wealth to and the skill they've acquired to score goals past us. Yeah, like again, Bournemouth gave us a really good game, admittedly away from home. I expect Chelsea away from home to give us a good game. So if we want, I'm not really giving score prediction. I reckon we'll both teams to score, but I think Chelsea will beat us personally.
Yeah, well, I think I think it might be a good time to play Chelsea with all the injuries they've got. They have the injuries that Chelsea have got, and even on Sunday, I think Reece James and Ben Chilwell, I mean, their injury records are pretty ropey last couple of seasons. I think Reece James might be all right to play, but Chilwell, not so sure. Edson, who we've mentioned earlier, he come on Sunday, and the fact their back 3 is Dizazi, Thiago Silva, and Colwill. Look, Colwill's highly rated, but and Sanchez, a decent enough goalie, but not a superstar goalkeeper. I mean, Brighton let him go. Do you know what I mean? So I think round sort of the sides and Thiago Silva and getting any younger, obviously still a really good defender. But I just think if we can attack Chelsea in those areas, I think we could get a result and get a win personally.
Yeah, I mean, if Antonio runs at him and is on top form, could definitely give Silva a torrid time of it. But our goals mostly, came from Bowen last time. Could be having that again. Again, I think we'll make a good game of it. I just, looking at it, I'm just thinking, score defeat is probably where my head's at coming into it. So that way, if we win, I'm ecstatic, and if we lose, I go, well, I predicted it.
What about you, Tony?
Well, unlike Dennis, I think Dennis is sitting on the fence. I don't even notice that.
I didn't sit on the fence. I said Chelsea are going to win.
You also sit at the same time. You also sit at the same time. If we get a win, I don't mind. So for me personally, I think I give a prediction. I think we're going to win it 2-1. I feel fairly confident in that. So that's what I'm going to go with. But I think actually that disjointedness that they've got, a new team, they've brought in a lot of players. They're still getting to know each other. What does Poch go with? Because as you said, it's so much of an imbalance of new talent compared to the existing. It's not, and I think what you just said there, Bill, hit it on the head. This is probably the right time to play him at this early stage of the season to get something out of the game. I think we definitely could take that to an advantage.
Yeah, I think because of that, I think I agree with you, Tony. I think we'll both teams to score, but I fancy us to nick it 2-1. So that 4 points from 2 games, I'd certainly would have taken that at the start of the season. Maybe the other way around, it might have been a win at Bournemouth home, a draw against Chelsea. But either way, it's not a problem. But great. Well, 58 minutes is flown by, lads. So thanks a lot for joining us. Particularly you, Tony. Thanks for joining, and good luck with obviously your channel. And
thank you,
links in the description below for anyone that wants to sub to Tony's channel. I recommend that you do. So we'll end it there, lads. So hopefully, when we next meet up, whenever that is, West Ham have a couple of wins under our belt and maybe some more transfers before the window shuts.
Yeah,
no good breath.
That'd be nice. All right, well, Tony. Tony, Dennis, thanks for joining, lads.
Thanks for the invite. It was appreciated. Thank you very much for that, and great to talk to you two as well. Thank you very much for your time.
No pleasure. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Subscribe to Gage Football if you're new. Subscribe to Tony's channel as well. We'll see you soon. Take care.